Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS breakdown for Friday, June 16th. Before we start, happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. I know it's Father's Day on Sunday, but I will not be back until Monday. So happy Father's Day. And also make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to all of our videos. It helps us out a ton. It is the way and the reason we are able to keep giving out all this content for free. And lastly, come join us at LineStar. It's only $29.99 per month. Gets you access to all of our DFS stuff, the projections, optimizer tools, gets you access to props AI, which we have been absolutely killing the prop markets with. So join us, one low cost for all sports. And now let's get into some of the fun. As we talked about a little bit in last video, we'll do a little rundown of yesterday's slate to see how it went first. So what we're going to be covering today is we're going to be covering very quickly yesterday's slate, and then we're going to run through the pitchers on today's slate, their ownership, some reasons to play them or not to play them, and then some low-owned guys that you might be interested in. After that, we're going to run through some stacks, the higher owned stacks, the higher projected stacks, and then the good value ones. And then that will do it for us today. So let's first jump into the lineups from yesterday. So on DraftKings, the perfect lineup had Nathan Eovaldi and Dylan Cease. We did mention Cease yesterday as a really good option. He ended up pitching very well, so he paid off. Eovaldi was 10.8K and only gave 23 points, but that was still enough to get into the perfect lineup just because there was so much value that really went off. Mickey Montauk was super cheap. David Fry, 25. You have Ruiz going for 22. There's just a lot of different ways to go. And if you can see, even the perfect lineup had stacks. Yes, it was only a 2-2 stack. But if we go to the winning DraftKings lineup, it looks a lot different here with, what do we have here? So, 2 White Sox, 2 Braves. See, this is a lineup right here that I think would be extremely hard to redo. You just have to get so many different things right. It worked for Kaufman here, and as you can see, he has a couple in the top 10 here. So my guess is what he did was he went way overweight on a few guys and then just let Optimizer kind of go from there. His pitcher, Stroman, 32% owned, so he ate the chalk there. AJ Smith-Sauber got up to 20% in on the big tournament here. I'm very surprised that he got that high owned in that tournament. On FanDuel in my tournament, he was only like 6% owned, but he paid off. He was cheap, 18.5. Stroman got you 20 points. For his price, that works out also. We talked about Stroman being good. I really liked Sauber yesterday. Interesting kind of lineup construction. Probably not one I would do. However, it worked for him and he won. So, can't knock that. Now, let's check out the FanDuel one real quick. Eovaldi coming in there. David Fry once again makes it. Jose Ramirez. Those Cleveland bats just had a giant first inning with 5 runs in the first. It was against Ryan Weathers, who, we absolutely should have known that. Ryan Weathers has been very spotty. He hasn't always came through, when you thought he would, and then he's really kind of got crushed quite often. So he hasn't been the guy that everybody thought he was, at least as a prospect. So kind of a similar lineup to FanDuel here. Just, only real stack, to DraftKings. Only real stack is this 2-man David Fry. And that's what you're going to actually see a lot on the perfect lineups. It's just because so much value comes in and people really aren't always on all that value. And it's really hard to predict what value is going to go off time and time again. That's why everybody stacks, because you have to get less right. So let's check out the winning lineup here. Kevin Hoddick, 20K, won it all here. So we got a mini White Sox stack. We got a mini ATL and a mini Cleveland. So 2-2-2 stack. Plus good old Kyle Tucker, who we absolutely loved. And then Dylan Cease on the bump, who, was a guy that we talked about. Unfortunately, I didn't play him. I played Smith Sauver, who did just fine. He put up 32. But Cease, at a similar salary, put up 8 more points. So that will do it for our wrap-up. Now let's jump into our projections and our pitchers for today. As always, we will start with the pitcher ownership. I'll move this over to get me out of the way here. And coming in the highest owned guy is Yu Darvish. Now this is versus the Tampa Bay Rays. Yu is way too cheap for his ability, 34.6%, but it's against the Tampa Bay Rays. As we know, Rays are just a good offense. High WOBA, don't strike out a ton, high ISO. Yu Darvish has done fine at home games here. But, a FIP of 3.85 over his last 20. Strikeout stuff is just kind of okay. 23% combined K rate. None of this is really jumping off the page for me as far as him being that much of a value at 8.1 that everybody should be playing him against one of the best teams in baseball. So I don't mind if you want to get off that chalk. Now, Kevin Gausman, he's versus the best offense in baseball, but Gausman has been absolutely insane this year. He 2.67 FIP over his last 20, 2.8 over his last 5. Comes with a 32.3% K rate, 30.8 over the last 5. The combined K rate, 25%, is solid. But like we said, Texas, 3.42 WOBA versus righties, 1.93 ISO versus righties. They hit the ball hard. So it is hard for me to follow chalk when it's against such a good team. And then you add in the BVP data. They've done really well versus Gausman. 66 plate attempts, hitting 317. Have 2 home runs off him, 380 WOBA. Comes with 29% K rate, so there's some upside there. But I definitely am a little worried. And if you look about, how he's done versus Texas, last year, never had a ceiling game against him. Didn't face them, since 2017 before that, which he did have some really good games. But, not a ton to go off. And just going off last year, I think, would be a little bit of a small sample size. But regardless, this Texas Ranger team can hit really well. Gausman's been really good. At high ownership and a price of 11.2K, I don't love following the chalk there. Next, we got Joe Ryan versus Detroit Tigers here, who strike out 27.8% versus righties. Low WOBA, low ISO. Ryan's averaging 26.3% more points at home. I think there's a lot to like about Ryan here. His K rate has fallen off a little bit over those last 5 starts. Last 20 starts, 27.5, 22.6 over the last 5. The combined K rate today is 25.4. But I think Ryan's in a just fine spot, and at this point, with what he's done this season, he is pretty much an ace. So I don't mind going there in a good matchup and at home. Zach Gallen, another guy that's been really good. It is against this Guardians team that doesn't strike out much. They aren't great versus righties. However, didn't really matter yesterday. Combined K rate only 17.7% there. That's the main reason here that I'm not really looking to go to Gallen. I think he's going to have a hard time racking up the Ks. And I think his line on sportsbooks is only like 5.5 Ks, and at 10.2K, that's just not going to pay it off for you. JP France, 7K. Now, France is probably still too cheap. 20% K rate, 21% over the last 5 starts, 20% combined K rate. Now, that's higher than Gallon, but 3K less. So that's why it's interesting to me. Cincinnati strikes out at 23%. They do have a decent offense, especially with Ella De La Cruz and some of their young guns they got going. But look, France has been consistent, and he's been decent this year. You could do worse than wanting to go there. Jared Schuster. Schuster's been fine. The weather in Atlanta is extremely nice, and winds are blowing out, so there's probably going to be some runs here. Unfortunately, I think we got to bring up Rich Hill. He has a K line today of like 6 or 6.5 Ks. He's been pitching pretty well lately. Seeing his strikeout line that high definitely intrigues me at his price, 27.4% strikeout rate versus lefties for Milwaukee. So he's interesting. He's low owned. It's always hard for me to go to Dick Mountain, but, he definitely looks good. Kopech has been amazing lately. 2.48 FIP over his last 5 starts with a 37% K rate. Seattle strikes out a lot. We have a 31.4% combined K rate for Kopech. Now, this is a guy that was a very, very highly touted prospect and had just got absolutely shelled. But maybe he figured out something. I know his pitch mix has changed a little bit, and it's really working for him right now. So I think you can go to Kopech. He's low owned with a real high ceiling. So he's a very interesting play. Shane McClanahan, you can always go to Shane McClanahan. I don't care who they're playing. He is one of the best pitchers in the game. He's just pricey. So now if we go down, Alcantara versus the Nationals. Look, we know Alcantara doesn't have strikeout stuff, but he's going to work super deep in the game. I think his line today for outs is like 20.5. So they're expecting him to pitch at least into the 6th inning. And we know this Washington team can't really hit. They just don't strike out much either. So upside may be pushed down a little bit, but you might be able to get, 7 innings of no runs and 4 or 5 Ks or something, which would be nice at 9,100. Sandoval versus the Royals is slightly intriguing, but he hasn't been very good lately, although he's probably had some bad luck. 3.76 FIP, 6.15 ERA. Tristan McKenzie is probably worth talking about just because that first outing versus Minnesota, 10 Ks, 5 innings of work. Next time out, he had 92 pitches and 5 innings of work, 5 Ks, but versus a much better Houston offense. Today, yeah, he gets a really good offense that he's going against on the Diamondbacks. But if McKenzie can show up, he's definitely interesting at 8.6K. So with pitching today, I think there's a lot of different ways to go. I'm not loving the current chalk. I don't mind Joe Ryan, but I really like kind of these mid higher price tier guys. Now, let's jump over to FanDuel, check some ownership there, and then we'll get into stacks. We'll try and make this quick here. Kevin Gausman coming in highest, 28%. Yu Darvish, 28%, right underneath that. Then Joe Ryan. I think that's real interesting for Joe Ryan. Rich Hill's interesting. Kopech is interesting. JP France is interesting. Alcantara is interesting, especially on FanDuel. Alcantara is a lot more interesting because you have the quality start and win bonus, not just the win bonus. So that's going to give you a couple more points. He's at a fairly low salary, and if he can go 7 innings, he's going to pay that off. So that is interesting to me. And McClanahan going pretty much unowned. So he would just have to shut out that very good Padre offense that has been hitting. So It's interesting. All right. Now let's get into some stacks. Try and go over this a little quick because the video is running long today. And the start, we got the Braves coming in at the highest owned, as they should be. I love this Braves stack today. They're going against Denelson and Lamet, who 4.7 FIP over his last 5 and over his last 20. He just hasn't been that good, and he is much worse to lefties. He's given up a 720 slugging to lefties. The weather is high 80s in Atlanta today, and the wind is blowing out. So we got a lot of factors working for the Braves in this situation. So also with that being said, the weather is good for both offenses. So don't totally count out the Rockies, even though they're likely not going to really pop up in this very much. But Rockies are also in the highest game total game of the day. So really like these Braves. They also have, some stacks that get you a little different and are a little bit cheaper. So that's interesting. We got Angels versus Brady Singer. Brady Singer is just like your average MLB pitcher. He's decent, but not great. You can pick on him. Ohtani is extremely hot right now, so you can absolutely go there. Ward's been solid. Trout is Trout. A lot of different ways to go with the Angels. Marlins are hard for me to ever stack because I just feel like it's very rare that they're putting up 8+ runs, but Trevor Williams is on the bump, 6.14 FIP over his last 5, so definitely makes sense to go there. Pittsburgh, Julio Teheran's been really good lately. I don't know if he's fully back, but I don't mind stacking against him. Just understand that Teheran's been way better than anybody would expect lately. This New York and Boston game is very interesting. It's another one where the weather is very conducive to hitting. Tanner Houck has just been okay, 4.6 ERA. Their bullpen isn't great, so I think you can go to the Yankees. The one thing is the Yankees are without Judge, and this offense is really sputtered without Judge in it. I think Toronto's pretty interesting. Martin Perez hasn't been great, but they crushed Perez. In 111 at-bats, they're hitting 313 off of him. So I think it's very interesting going towards Toronto. Now let's go to the higher projection. Atlanta, no surprise, popping up. We do have a little bit of Cincinnati is interesting. And we got the Giants here, which the Giants are against the Dodgers, and they're going to be against a guy that is getting called up from Double-A. So he's going straight from Double-A to major league hitters. So that could go a little rough for him. However, the Dodgers are still favored in that game. So, I don't know if I'd get too crazy with that. It is the second time Andrew Friedman has ever called up a guy directly from Double-A. And this is absolutely a situation where it's not like this guy is crushing it. They're in need of starting pitchers right now just because of so many injuries. JP Sears versus Philly. It's absolutely interesting. I don't think Oakland pitching is going to keep up to what they've been doing over the last, week and a half, 2 weeks or so. Their bullpen just isn't that good. Sears is okay, 4.23 FIP over his last 5, 5.08 over the last 20. Tampa Bay Rays versus Darvish, don't love it. And Julio Teheran there, you could pick on maybe. Oakland, as we talked about, Oakland's been really hot. They're against Ty Walker, and Walker hasn't been that great, so I absolutely think you can go there. KC versus Sandoval's coming up on the value, and Washington versus Alcantara probably wouldn't go there. So there are some interesting value options if you do want to pay up there as well. And let's check out ceiling. No surprise. Pretty much an all-metric Braves are really jumping off the page. Phillies jumping off the page, as we talked about, as a stack we like. And the Giants are going to be in a bullpen game. but Dodgers' ceiling is kind of jumping off the page here a little bit. And it's interesting. The one thing with bullpen games is you're likely going to be getting relievers in their most beneficial situations. So it doesn't always go the way you would expect where teams are kind of getting blown up. So just because it's a bullpen game, I wouldn't be wanting to go with the Dodgers. So that will do it today. Adding the little wrap up before, let me know how you like that. We can keep it. We can, get rid of it. We can change it a little bit. It's a work in progress. Just let me know what you think. And you guys have a great weekend. Good luck today. And we'll see you next week. Have a good one, guys. Bye.